15th, 2022. On behalf of the members of the school board and the superintendent, I welcome each of you joining us. A quorum is present to transact the business of the school division. We will begin tonight's meeting with the invocation and pledge to the flag. Here to do the honors is Jazera Brown from Stony Run Elementary School. First, Jazera, would you please come forward and deliver the invocation?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jazara Brown, and I'm in Miss Oliver's 5th grade TAC class at Stony Run Elementary School. I want to share a poem that is called The Crayon Box That Talked. Wouldn't it be terrible, wouldn't it be sad, if just one single color was the color that we had? If everything was purple, or red, or blue, or green. If yellow, pink, or orange was all that could be seen. Can you just imagine how dull the world would be if just one single color was all we got to see? Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jazara.
You're welcome.
You did a wonderful job. And supporting Jazara tonight are her family members and her school family. I'd ask them to stand at this time to be recognized. The board appreciates the encouragement you've given to Jazara, and we thank you for bringing her to tonight's meeting. The next item on tonight's agenda is going to be school board recognitions. Dr. Parker, I believe we have a few.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And it's a good evening for recognitions. Mrs. Price, you want to bring us full circle on those? There you go.
Good evening. Tonight I have the pleasure of acknowledging the dedicated members of the Newport News School Board, as February is School Board Appreciation Month in Virginia. This observance was established by the Virginia School Boards Association in 1989 to encourage public recognition of the roles and responsibilities of school board members and to highlight the importance of public education. Locally elected school board members play an important role in our representative democracy, as the decisions of local school boards directly influence instruction in Virginia's public schools. As constitutional officers of the Commonwealth, Newport News School Board members are responsible for setting educational policies, employing school personnel, providing buildings and equipment, operating a transportation system, and dispersing school funds, among many other duties. Their job is not an easy one, but our school board is committed to serving our community, ensuring that all students are given every opportunity to excel through education. Tonight, we salute our school board members, and I'm going to ask each of them to come down, or come across, to accept their certificate of honor from the Virginia School Boards Association in recognition of their commitment and service on behalf of the students, staff, and citizens of Newport News and the Commonwealth of Virginia. We'll begin with our chairman, Douglas Brown. Our vice chairman, Lisa Searles Law. School board member, Rebecca Amon. School board member, Dr. Terry Best. Thank you. School board member, John Ely.
Make a bet.
School board member, Marvin Harris. and School Board Member Gary Hunter.
So on behalf of Newport News Public Schools and our employees, I'd like to say that it's been a very tough year to be a school board member, and the past 3 years. And I've never worked with a more dedicated group of elected officials. They are parents, community members. Many of them ran for many different reasons. But as we know throughout the challenges that we face, good, bad, or indifferent, they have stayed focused on the needs of children. And for that, we need to give them our complete and undivided gratitude and appreciation. We know we have a lot of issues and a lot of concerns with the way things go today, but our kids are our focus. This board is student focused, and they are a well-trained board who have committed to doing a lot of professional development to make sure that they have a solid governance structure in place and can support the teachers and students in Newport News Public Schools. So on behalf of all of our employees, I'd like to thank you for all of your service, and let's give them another round of applause this year. And now, stay here because we're going to recognize another very important part of our team, which is the board clerk.
Absolutely. This week is School Board Clerk Appreciation Week in Virginia. So each February, the Virginia School Boards Association designates 1 week to recognize and acknowledge the work and assistance that clerks provide to school board members, superintendents, and the school community at large. School board clerks are responsible for keeping records of meetings and documenting official proceedings of the school board, preparing and posting meeting agendas, organizing meeting schedules, and providing administrative support, among other duties. The VSBA noted it's especially important this year to take a moment to thank our school board clerks who've remained attentive and ready to help throughout the barrage of changes due to the COVID pandemic. This evening, we acknowledge our clerk of the school board, Mrs. Tiffany Moore Buffalo. Would you please come forward? Ms. Buffalo maintains a complete and accurate record of all school board proceedings, including maintaining the board's online meeting portal, Board Docs. She also maintains the school board's calendar, coordinates and schedules their professional development, and serves as a liaison between the school board and the public. Ms. Moore Buffalo, on behalf of the school board, the administration, the citizens of our community, and our students and staff, thank you for your dedicated service. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, and congratulations. I'm going to take a moment to just take a picture. While they make their way back to their seats, at this time we'll take about an 8-minute break so our students who join us this evening and their families may leave if they choose to do so. During this time, our viewing audience will have the opportunity to view this month's School Board Spotlight. So we'll stand in recess for about 8 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
By teaming up with the Mariners Museum, ninth graders at Menchville and Warwick High Schools
are diving into the world of lake restoration and watershed investigation. Bay Watershed Education and Training, affectionately shortened to BWET, is a national program administered by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. BWET provides real-world learning opportunities for K-12 students and professional development training for educators. Mariners Museum was one of 12 recipients in the Chesapeake Bay region to receive a BWET grant to help fund meaningful watershed educational experiences for Newport News students to investigate local environmental issues. Through this 3-year grant, Mariners Museum and Newport News Public Schools, along with student interns from Christopher Newport University, will grow and plant native eelgrass in Mariners Lake to improve the quality of the ecosystem. At Menchville and Warwick, 9 educators and about 500 freshmen will participate in the BWET program this school year. To get started, Mariners Museum educators met with each teacher and their science classes virtually to introduce students to their involvement in the BWET program. Through interactive activities and discussions, students expanded their understanding of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, learned how pollution affects our waterways, identified characteristics of a healthy ecosystem, and noted land changes that have affected the health of Mariners Lake. After the virtual meetings, students began planting native freshwater eelgrass in water tanks provided by the museum. This eelgrass, also known as wild celery, will grow and mature in each classroom until April, when students will visit Mariners Lake to personally plant it. Eelgrass will improve the quality of the lake by providing sediment stability, increasing water clarity, creating a habitat for aquatic organisms, and attracting more migratory birds. Through this partnership, 9th graders at Menchville and Warwick will increase their environmental literacy by being directly involved in a local lake restoration project. General Stanford Elementary has been recognized by the Commonwealth of Virginia as a Purple Star School for their concentrated efforts to support students and families connected to our nation's military. General Stanford is located right on Fort Eustis, so 100% of the student population are military-connected students who live on base. The Virginia Purple Star designation is awarded by the Virginia Department of Education to deserving military-friendly schools that meet a number of required standards. Since military families are constantly on the move, General Stanford helps new students transition smoothly and feel welcome with student-led tours and classroom buddies. When parents are deployed, the school supports students and families through their brand new Anchored for Life program. The entire staff at General Stanford receives professional development and training focused on supporting military-connected children in school settings. Professional school counselor Lo Chevelle Brown is specifically trained as a point of contact for military families to help the school create events and activities that keep families connected to their children's learning and celebrate the dedication of the servicemen and women. Newport News Public Schools helps to broaden this support across all of our schools. At the start of the school year, the NNPS School Board passed a resolution that supports all of the 6,500 military-connected students in Newport News through ongoing professional development for educators, as well as focused communication regarding additional resources for families. General Stanford will retain its Purple Star status for 3 years, but their commitment to military students and families will always continue. Elected officials were invited to Warwick High School to witness firsthand how students in the Governor's Health Sciences Academy are preparing for their future careers. In early December, Newport News Public Schools celebrated Take Your Legislator to School. Elected officials at the city, state, and federal level of government were invited to a breakfast and tour at Warwick. During the morning presentation, Superintendent Dr. George Parker, School Board Chairman Douglas Brown, and NNPS leaders presented some of the various legislative and infrastructure needs facing schools across Newport News. This allowed legislators and school leaders to openly discuss options and solutions moving forward. After breakfast, elected officials, members from the Newport News Education Foundation, and the executive leadership team followed JROTC cadets on a tour of the Health Sciences Academy at Warwick. In classrooms and labs, students presented the technological tools, interactive lessons, and career preparation they receive daily. High school students who complete this unique course offering are highly trained and well on their way to securing a number of occupations in the health sciences field after graduation. Again, legislators were able to dialogue directly with the students and even offer industry connections to further the high school students' practical career experiences. For state and school leaders, Take Your Legislator to School was a wonderful opportunity to spur on productive conversations focused on student achievement and success. Thanks to the James River Association, all sixth graders in Newport News Public Schools build on their classroom knowledge through unique and meaningful watershed educational experiences. Since October, educators from the James River Association have been visiting each middle school to offer hands-on learning experiences that tie in directly with the Virginia Standards of Learning. Through this educational exploration, students are connected to the James River through student-directed investigations using technology and real-world scenarios. With Newport News located along the shores of the James River, students gain a better understanding of how their actions directly impact Virginia's communities, businesses, and recreational opportunities. And by becoming responsible stewards of the James River, they can positively affect the larger Chesapeake Bay watershed we all live within. During their time with students, JRA educators use a range of interdisciplinary learning skills to develop an appreciation for nature and our waterways. By building a wetland in a bottle, students visually see how important healthy wetlands are to filtering water. Using water samples directly from the James River, students collect data about temperature, turbidity, dissolved oxygen, and pH levels. These water quality tests allow students to grade the James River on its health and discuss possible conservation actions that each of us can make to ensure a healthy watershed. JRA educators also help students take action by working together to stencil colorful reminders near drains that are located right on their school grounds. Thanks to the James River Association, science exploration and conservation become fun and engaging activities, allowing students to understand how each of them can positively impact our Chesapeake Bay watershed.
Well, welcome back. We hope you enjoyed this month's School Board Spotlight. During our regular meetings, we provide time for the public to address the school board. So now as we are in item 2 of our agenda, the school board recognizes that some members of the public may not be able to join us in person. As advertised, citizens may submit comments via web form, email, or voicemail up to 30 minutes prior to our meeting time to be included in the official meeting record. For those of you joining us in person, the board considers this an opportunity to listen to your comments at this time but not respond. The school board has agreed to provide 3 opportunities for public input during our regular meeting. Newport News residents who wish to address a topic not included on the action item portion of the agenda will be called to address the board during Section 2, Audience with Individuals, which is the current section. Newport News residents who wish to address an action item on the agenda will be called to address the board during Section 4. Action items. Non-Newport News residents who wish to address the board or those whose address is unidentifiable on your speaker card will be called to address the board during Section 6, the second audience with individuals. So everyone's going to get a chance to speak tonight. All speakers are asked to comply with our 3-minute time limit. As you begin your comments, a green light will come on. A yellow light signals that you have 30 seconds remaining, and a red light and beep indicates that your time is up. As we'll have 21 cards at this time for Section 2, and it's 3 minutes each, and there's a 30-minute time limit. You can imagine that we have to be expeditious in everyone hopefully keeping to the time so that we can accommodate as many speakers as possible. So we appreciate your cooperation. And as your name is called, please come forward. First speaker card I have is Tom Amon.
Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Tom Amon. I am a Newport News public school parent. It is great to see so many people wearing red in the audience and around the room, showing their support for what the governor and the legislature have done on behalf of the children of Virginia. The mask mandate will come to an end on March 1st when the new law becomes active. This new law does not ban masks. It simply allows the parents to decide for their children. This is where the decision should always have been. I believe this board has an opportunity to retain its autonomy by taking the step of lifting the mask mandate themselves in favor of making it optional. This board should take an up or down vote to end the mandate now and allow parents the choice on masks. It is easy to do. Virginia Beach added an opt-out button in Parent View. Newport News has Parent View as well. It is a shame that the governor and the legislature have had to step in to move this and other boards to do the right thing. For too long, our children have been forced to wear a mask, even though it was clear that there was very little, if any, benefit to it. The amount of fear placed on the children by being forced to wear a mask is just sad. If standing up for the families and the children in Newport News school system makes me a right-wing activist, I will gladly wear that moniker, because like many others, I believe it is imperative that we have equal opportunity in education and as a result, equal opportunity in life. The parents of Newport News are awake, and we will be keeping an eye on what the schools and the school board are doing. No longer will this board or the administration be able to push its progressive agenda without pushback from the families they serve. Thank you for your time.
All right, next card I have is Andrew Hlavacek. Andrew Hlavacek. Is he still in there? After Mr. Hlavacek will be Frank Richardson.
Good evening, board members. I'd like to thank all of you for your time this evening. Some of the things I say tonight may be harsh and offensive to some on the board, but they need to be said and you need to hear it. As Mr. Brown told me, we cannot remain a free society by silencing or censoring disparate voices. Tonight I have a different view than most of you. You need to give an option for our children to not wear masks, and we need better school safety. In quoting Governor Youngkin's second executive order, while the CDC recommends masks, its research has found no statistically significant link between mandatory masking for students and reduced transmission of COVID-19. And the CDC has acknowledged that certain masks may be ineffective due to the material from which they are made or how they are worn. End quote. Furthermore, with Governor Youngkin's second executive order and Virginia State Code 1-240.1, a parent has a fundamental right to make decisions concerning the upbringing, education, and care of the parent's child. This will allow all parents to make the decision for their kids not to wear masks. You do not get to make that decision for us. Page 3, Item 4 of Executive Order 2 states a child whose parent has elected that he or she is not subject to a mask mandate should not be required to wear a mask under any policy implemented by a teacher, school district, the Department of Education, or any other state authority. The Virginia Department of Health has a list of 9 prevention strategies. None of these strategies are exclusively masking up. It states parents should mask to help reduce the risk of COVID-19, but not children. Even for school officials and staff, it states to ensure hand washing and respiratory etiquette, but not mandatory masking. I'm asking as a concerned parent and citizen to please give us an option to unmask our children. I would also like to add that House Bill 1272 that has passed the Virginia Senate states in Section C, notwithstanding any other provision of law or any regulation, rule, or policy implemented by a school board, school division, school official, or other state or local authority, the parent of any child enrolled in a public elementary or secondary school or in any school-based early childhood care and education program may elect for such child to not wear a mask while on school property. A parent making such an election shall not be required to provide a reason or any certification of the child's health or education status. No student shall suffer any adverse disciplinary or academic consequences as a result of this parental election. End quote. So why don't you, the school board, just go ahead and end the masks now? It's ending in July 1st or sooner anyways. Lastly, when I was here in December, I brought up a concern about a book that promotes bringing guns to school to intimidate bullies. In your letter to me, Mr. Chairman, you didn't respond to that. Do you not care about the safety of our children? Does the shooting at Heritage High not matter? Does the shooting at Warwick High, where a child that my son knew died, not matter? You as the chairman should care about these incidents. You as the school board have done nothing to improve school safety. Thank you. Have a good night.
Frank Richardson.
Good evening. My name is Frank Richardson. I've been a resident of Newport News since 2003. Thanks for your service to the school board. My life in public school system here in Virginia was fantastic. In 12 years that I attended school, I missed one day. That's right, one day. And the day I missed school is the day I missed the bus. I love school and my teachers. I still remember my teachers in elementary and high school, including Mrs. Perry, my first grade teacher. That was more than 60 years ago. Mrs. Perry was a great mentor in my life. She built upon the foundation of love, respect, personal discipline, and the value of hard work my parents instilled in me. The institutions in my day created an environment where students could achieve excellence. The focus was on reading, writing, and math. My hard work, along with mentoring and guidance from my parents and teachers, empowered me to go on to college at Virginia Military Institute, VMI. VMI opened the doors for me to enter the Air Force, which I started here at Langley Air Force Base, several tours in Europe, Saudi Arabia, many locations across the globe, and I proudly served 28 years in service of our nation, protecting and defending the Constitution of the United States, the greatest country in the world. I am concerned of today's school experience because I don't think it's great like I experienced it when I was going to school. Students have lost valuable time with school closures, virtual learning, and mask mandates. We know children are having increased negative physical and psychological issues with reduced communication and social skills and increased violence and chaos in our schools. We see many reports stating high school students are being graduated with little or no reading, writing, and math skills. This is a travesty for the United States of America. My call of action to Newport News School Board are as follows. Be more transparent and accountable to parents. Respect parents' decisions on their children's health, education, and care, including mask or no mask. Focus on creating and maintaining a school environment where children can succeed and excel. A happy place where I used to go to school. Work with parents and teachers to empower children to experience the values of our nation put into effect in the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Let children be all they can be.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Thank you.
Heather Clements.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. With that being said, enough is enough. I'm asking you to please make mask wearing parents' choice. Just like you followed the previous governor's order, you need to do the same with the new one. It should not matter what political side you affiliate with in this circumstance. Your job is to educate and protect the rights of the children no matter what. I have never questioned or challenged your judgment before, but it is very clear to me and a lot of other people that masks are not for the health of the children. It is all about a political agenda, money, and control. The kids are suffering because of it. It is abuse, and you all know it. Nobody has the right to control another person's ability to breathe, period. Kids need to be in an environment where they can learn and thrive. Muzzling their faces does the exact opposite. The harm that is being caused by this is far greater than a viral threat to the kids. Children are not responsible for the safety of adults. Please do the right thing and make masks optional. Thank you.
Sophia Tu Harper. Sophia Tu Harper.
Good evening, school board. My name is Safiatu Harper, and I'm a resident of Newport News, Virginia. First of all, thank you all for this opportunity to speak to you all. I stand before you today to express my disappointment in the Newport News School Board. It seems that the school board has forgotten their mission. You have forgotten that it's not about you or your political future, but about our children. You were elected to protect our children, ensure our children's well-being, and to ensure that they are being educated and not indoctrinated. Because of a failure to uphold your responsibility, our children are failing academically, feel unsafe physically, are scarred emotionally, and are not prepared to meet the demands of our ever-changing world. Instead of partnering with parents and fighting for what was best for our children, you choose to turn our school board into an arms of a certain political party. You decided to play politics instead of protecting our children. And it is our children who are the recipient of this poor leadership and therefore are not properly educated or prepared for the future. The mask issue, though it was the straw that broke the camel's back for many parents, was never really the issue. The issue has always been your future to ensure our children was properly educated and protected. Newport News has the lowest test scores on the peninsula. Our children are failing in math, science, reading, just to name a few. And you did nothing to rectify that. Instead, you toed a party line and used our children as political pawns. Today, I believe it is high time as we hold you responsible for your failures. I believe you owe an apology to every single child in our school system. Since you have been elected, we do need to apologize to our children. You have failed them, for their future is in jeopardy because of your reaction. Instead of leading with logic and reason, you choose to lead by following the crowd and political talking points. You choose to follow the political party line instead of going against the grain and blazing your own trail that would have benefited our children. With election coming up, I hope each one of you will do a self-reflection and begin the necessary step to rectify the situation. What our children need now is strong leadership. Leadership that is not beholden to a political party, to a particular political party, but is beholden to the finding and standing for the truth, fighting for the well-being and proper education of our children, partnering with parents for a better tomorrow, and ensuring our school board uphold their responsibility. Again, thank you.
Troy Sorensen. Troy Sorensen.
You guys can put a face with a name now. I've been sending you some emails, and I just want to look up here real quickly. There's a re-election happening. Your seats, they're up for eviction. The law has been passed, and this isn't just about masks. This is about each and every one of you trying to take away the voice for a choice for people like me who have served our nation proudly. Do the right thing. Follow the law. I've received an email from somebody recently saying that the school board's position is to comply with the law. Follow the law. One other thing, just want to say, there's a lot of people wearing red out here today in support of Governor Youngkin, and it's a great sight to see. That's all I got. You guys have a good night. See you on Election Day.
Scott Furman. Scott Furman.
Thank y'all for giving me the opportunity to speak to y'all. My name is Scott Furman. I'm the parent of a 7-year-old at Sedgefield Elementary School. First off, I truly think y'all forgot who you work for. Y'all the teachers, the administrators. You're all paid by the taxpayers and us parents, every one of you. So that to me is a problem because it feels like, just like that lady just said, you're always towing the political line. I was here for the transgender bathroom deal with my little girl and sending boys in there, and 4 or 5 of y'all flipped on that vote from political pressure. One of them over here, Mr. Ely. The last governor, you followed his mandates clearly without even talking to us parents, just forced these pieces of trash on them to wear them. I don't understand it. I've had COVID, not vaccinated. I'm here talking to you. I'm not dead. Smoked like a freight train every day of my life. Still, standing here talking to you, not dead. I don't understand the fear of it. We're Americans. Are y'all aware that 39% of Newport News teachers are talking about leaving into the year? 39%. That's a direct reflection of all except for this one young lady right here. All the rest of you. Direct reflection, 39%. What are you going to do when you lose 39% of your teachers? Unless you want to come support my family emotionally, financially, you have no right to tell me if my kid's got to wear a mask or not, nor to keep from me if she says she wants to be a little boy, for Christ's sake. I mean, that's my right to know. Enough with that. We'll finish with Mr. Ely. I voted for you blindly because I thought you'd do a good job. Then I find out you don't even have a kid in the system, so it makes me wonder, why are you even on the school board? You can either come back to where you were when you were running, or this parent is going to run on behalf of all the parents, and I'm going to oust you. I promise you. Thank you. Chuckle.
Michelle Warren. After Michelle Warren will be Darren Pittman. All right. In the interest of time, Mr. Pittman, I'm going to let you come on up, and then Michelle Warren will be right after you.
Good evening, members of the board. Just wondering why we're not allowing parents to make the choice. Why we're not allowing the parents to make the choice of whether or not their child wear a mask or not. We still live in America. I fought for this country. 22 years, just like you did, Mr. Harris. We are dealing with a society of people that they don't agree on the same thing. We understand that. This is the very reason why we are in a constitutional republic, which is to protect liberty and avoid tyranny, which is a form of bondage. Some choose to wear masks because they believe it is protecting them. Some choose not to wear the mask because they believe it doesn't even work. Some choose not to wear the mask because they believe it causes more health issues. Truth is, the science has shown that the masks don't prevent you from catching COVID, as was first stated. Truth is, the mask can cause you to have other issues. Truth is, many people are dying every day due to age, several other issues other than COVID. Liberty that was fought for back in the 60s is still being fought for today. It's just been done in a different way. We've been threatened here today. To do nothing is absolutely neglect of the position that you were elected in to serve. Parents do have rights. We have the right to speak up for our children. We have the right to petition. We have the right to choose where our children attend school. We have the right to vote. We have the right to say enough is enough. We've allowed enough mess into our school systems. It's time to allow common sense back into our school systems. Let's stop the control agenda, which has been politicized, and let's get back to math, English, reading, writing, and real science. I'm asking you to cast a vote. Allow your constituents to know where you stand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pittman. So, Michelle Warren, is Michelle Warren in the audience? Okay. All right. Courtney Kulikowski. And after Courtney Kulikowski will be Matthew DeGrave. And after Matthew DeGrave will be Emily Council.
Hi. My name is Courtney Kulikowski. I have a third grader at Saunders Elementary, a preschooler at Chestnut Memorial, and I recently began subbing in the Newport News schools. In both elementary and middle schools, the majority of kids I've encountered are not wearing masks properly. I've observed kids flinging their masks around the room, spinning them on their fingers, trying to see how many pencils they can stick out of it while it's on their face, dropping it on an absolutely filthy floor, stepping on it, and putting it back on their face, or simply pulling the mask down. They deserve to have a choice not to wear it at all, rather than continue to get yelled at and belittled to put it back on. My daughter will be 5 at the end of this week. She has a genetic disorder that includes cardiac abnormalities, asthmatic symptoms, and speech difficulties. At this point, the mask is causing her more harm than good, as she can't see people's faces to observe their mouth formations as they speak. Even though she's high risk due to her medical condition, her development, particularly in speech, is being compromised at a higher rate than are her chances of complications from COVID. I wish that the energy that's being spent on mask mandates would have been spent on educating our kids in the first place. I'm absolutely disgusted at what I'm seeing in the schools. In all the places I've been, I've never seen anything like this. The violence, the bullying. I'm not gonna cry. I wish that we were putting the kids first. Teachers need to have their authority handed back to them. They need to have classroom management. They need to be able to do something about these kids hitting and spitting on each other and squirting sanitizer in other kids' eyes. Let the teachers teach toward the end goal without the silly scripted materials. Have you tried to learn from, what's your math book called? Eureka. Have you guys tried to learn from Eureka? Third graders are skipping right past multiplication facts, going into order of operations. You try that. All of the schools should have the students writing with paper and pencils and getting off of those computers. Smarty Ants and Dreambox are wonderful supplemental materials, but they never should have been used as a core part of basic curriculum. Parents need to be involved in all of the schools again, not just your tag and magnet schools. As a parent, I've been shut out of my child's education here in Newport News, even pre-COVID. Involve the parents. Let them volunteer. Let them see what's going on in the schools. Work together for the higher goal.
Thank you, Ms. Kulikowski.
Thanks.
Matthew DeGrave.
Council members, I just want to first say thank you. I feel like my concerns about the large group of people that were going to storm the schools, as they put it, to ensure that their kids were allowed to go into the school mask-free, were taken seriously, and you responded appropriately. Dr. Parker, I also want to thank you for your response to my emails as well. I honestly think the school board is doing a good job. There are a lot of people here who are really angry and upset. And I try and not demonize or characterize these folks. They have concerns that, that the masks may not really work. I have a different opinion I hope that you guys vote to keep the mask mandate until the law goes into effect, whether that is July 1st or March 1st. I hope that even after that law goes into effect, if it's July and maybe we're over COVID by that point, that maybe we won't need the masks anymore. But if it is March 1st, that you heavily encourage students to continue wearing their masks. I understand it is a sore topic. There are a lot of people here tonight who are very much against it. I don't think you guys are politically motivated. I honestly think you guys are just trying to follow the CDC guidelines and do the best thing that's possible for the students here. I have 2 students in the Newport News school system. One of my sons goes to Riverside Elementary and has had amazing teachers. They've been there for him. They've helped him. They're working with him on his math, his reading and writing. So this notion that parents are seeing that school boards and schools are not teaching basic reading, writing, and math is just not true. My other son is in preschool. He goes to Watkins. He loves it there. He says every day he gets to dance. He knows since starting school that he comes home and he can write his ABCs and he can write his name. I think he's on the good track to do this. I know that some parents at some other schools may not be having the same experience that I'm having at the schools that I work with. But I just want to say thank you for the things you guys are doing. I understand that there are people who are upset about the mask mandates, and I'm just asking that you please keep forward. You followed the governor's order with the bathroom bill, which I agree with, that we should adopt those policies, the model bill that was passed. And I say do the same thing here, but if it passes March 1st, just heavily encourage the mask wearing. I know my students, my kids will continue to wear their masks in school. I also wanted to mention, it was brought to my attention before I got a chance to be out in the hallway. There are a bunch of religious signs going up and down the hallway. That's not really appropriate for a school board. I know you guys have been in here, so you haven't seen them, so there's posters and stuff like that. And then the other question that I would ask to bring up is if we do get rid of the mask mandate, what about teacher sick pay? Are we going to support our teachers? I know that we're already stressed very thin. But anyway, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. DeGrave. Emily Council, and then will be Heather Schnell after Emily Council.
Good evening. My name is Emily Council, and I am a resident of Newport News City and a former Newport News public school teacher. I worked for Newport News Public Schools from 2008 through March 2021, when I resigned as a direct result of mask policies in Newport News Public Schools and throughout the state of Virginia. As an elementary school teacher and as a mother of small children, I quickly recognized the dangers that masks have on young children. Not only is it wildly inappropriate for their social, emotional, and language development, there is also zero scientific data to support it. As a teacher, I was consistently pulling my mask down to show my English language learners how to make letter sounds in order so that they could learn English. Can you imagine trying to learn a foreign language and not being able to see someone's mouth? I assume you've heard all there is to hear about children and masks, and despite the obvious lack of data to support mandatory masking, you've still chosen to enforce them. Despite the absence of any state or federal law that requires them, because any such law would be unconstitutional, as well as choosing to ignore a state executive order to deny exemptions for students and employees. Despite the fact that people have been attending concerts, sporting events, conferences, festivals, and other large-scale gatherings across the country for months without masks. Despite the fact that anyone above the age of 5 who wants to get a vaccine and receive a booster has had ample opportunity to do so. Despite the fact that there is no scientific significance to wearing cloth masks for prolonged periods of time to prevent the spread of an aerosolized respiratory virus. I don't need to provide data or information for all these things because I'm sure you've heard it all by now, and it hasn't changed your mind. However, I trust that you will do the right thing tonight by following the soon-to-be-signed law that supports a parent's right to choose the best course of action for their children when it comes to managing their health and well-being. I am also here to support all of the teachers, faculty and staff that work for Newport News Public Schools who would also like to make their own choice for their own health and well-being. At this point, all faculty and staff have also had the opportunity to receive a vaccine, and if they desire, should be allowed to remain wearing a mask if it makes them feel comfortable. Those who desire to remove their masks should have the right to do so without being harassed or made to feel as if they don't care about children or don't love their neighbor. Therefore, I would also implore you tonight to consider revising your guidelines for adults as you adopt new policies for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Heather Schnell.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, all right. I'm here to talk about COVID, sick pay being covered. So if you caught COVID the first semester of school, it was covered without using sick time. If you didn't have COVID, but you stayed at home with a child who had it, it was covered. If you had COVID symptoms, but no proof of COVID, your sick time was covered, and this was all before the big Omicron surge. Now here we are, second semester of the same school year. I had symptomatic COVID, then my kids got COVID. I went to the doctor and got a doctor's note excusing me from work for COVID. I reached out to HR about approving my time off in quarantine so I wouldn't have to use my sick days, but I was told I had to prove I got COVID at school or else it was coming out of my sick time. I teach related arts, so I see about 200 kids a day, and roughly about a third of them were out on quarantine. What is the likelihood that I caught COVID from one of my 200 students that I see in a single day? How do I prove where I caught a highly transmissible virus? Why in the same school year were teachers who got COVID or were even just exposed to COVID the first semester, their sick time was covered, but now teachers who get it during a huge spike in the surge of cases are not covered? How is this fair? This is all under the same school year. Please consider changing that policy. And on just another side note regarding time off, on our reset days, I have to pay a babysitter to watch my kids so that I can plan from an empty classroom. I can plan just as effectively at home as I can in my classroom. If the reasoning behind requiring teachers to be in the buildings when the kids aren't there is because some teachers maybe aren't doing what they're supposed to, then please talk to those teachers individually and don't punish the entire group. And many of us are technically paying to come to work just so that we can sit in an empty classroom. So just some things to think about. Appreciate your time and have a great evening. Thank you.
Mary Voss. And Mary Voss will be followed by Ron Watrons.
Hello, good evening. Mary Voss, NNPS parent, teacher, and graduate. I'm a member of the Virginia Education Association and the Virginia Caucus of Rank and File Educators. Thank you to the school board for following existing state law, even when the governor didn't with his illegal executive order. I know the new upcoming law will largely tie your hands, but we appreciate you doing the right thing for the safety of our students, staff, and their families in the meantime. Many teachers, staff, and students would appreciate the board waiting until the March 1st date set by the governor to repeal NNPS's universal masking policy. Waiting until March 1st would allow us to get further past Omicron's spike and further past cold and flu season before unmasking. And it would allow a couple of weeks for immunocompromised students, staff, and families to look for alternate school and work options if needed. I hope the school system will continue to have spare masks available for students and also for staff members who continue to wear them for safety, and that care will be taken to ensure that children who mask at school are not subjected to bullying for their choice. Even if our governor and many state legislators are quick to sacrifice student and staff safety to stoke a divisive culture war, I hope NNPS will support students and staff members' right to protect themselves and others during a pandemic. Also, dropping the mask mandate will make it all the more important that NNPS expand virtual learning options to accommodate immunocompromised students and staff who cannot safely be around large numbers of unmasked, unvaccinated people during a pandemic. It's unfortunate that mask wearing during a potentially deadly pandemic has become a political issue here in the United States instead of a common sense public health strategy, like it's treated in many other developed countries. Politicizing masks and vaccines has led to the United States being the world leader in COVID deaths, with over 943,000 COVID deaths and counting here, many of which likely could have been prevented with masking and vaccination. The upcoming state law takes away school boards' ability to institute basic CDC mitigation strategies to protect immunocompromised students, staff, and families. This law is problematic because 2 years in, the pandemic still isn't over, and future waves of variants are likely around the corner eventually. Going forward, Virginia school boards will not be able to respond when the numbers skyrocket again, and who knows what surprises COVID variants have in store next. Many children are unvaccinated, and COVID is much more deadly for African Americans and Hispanic Americans, who make up a large percentage of the families in our diverse school district. For these reasons, I hope you will keep the mask mandate in place until March 1st. I'm proud to be a Newport News. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Voss. All right. At this time, board members, I have 6 more cards, which means that we likely could finish in 20 minutes, and I would ask if the board would entertain a motion to extend item 2 for 20 minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we do extend our time for 20 minutes.
All right. Thank you for the motion, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Harris. Is there any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris. 4. Mr. Hunter.
4.
Mrs. Schultz.
4. Mrs. Amon. 4. Dr. Best.
4.
Mr. Ely.
4.
Mr. Brown.
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
So our next speaker is Ron Watrous. And after Mr. Watrous will be Andy Thornton.
Good evening. Thanks for allowing me to speak and be here tonight. Ron Watrous, 24-year Air Force veteran. I've done a number of jobs, but one of the things I've had to do is fit mask testing and that sort of thing. And I got to tell you, the science behind this and the science behind particulate matters and virology and the peer-reviewed journal articles, this is like catching a mosquito with a chain link fence. It may make us feel better, but short of the person with the big snotty sneeze, this does nothing for us. It's emotionally great, but it's not scientific. And particularly if it's, N95 and the better quality masks, most of them are not even fitted properly. So even if you have the right equipment, in the military we learn that when you're trained and you use the equipment properly, then it can help you. It can help you, but it doesn't save you. It just helps you. This is not helping us. Now, I don't know what right totally looks like in these weird, silly putty times that we're living in. What I do know is what is wrong. I'm watching my granddaughter, who has never been in a classroom without this. I'm watching speech pathology. I'm watching kids that don't know what their friends look like. My wife's a teacher, and it is heroic. I'm not attacking anybody. I'm merely saying that the law in Virginia, the code in Virginia, gives parents a voice and a right to be able to say what is best for their children's health. And that means that yes, we need to support the teachers, we need to support the board, we need to support each other. But heroes live here and work here too. Future heroes are going to school. And I pray to God that we're not delaying them or turning them into sociopaths because they're not getting the social learning from the cues of being able to see each other's faces and understand, oh, I see you're upset. Ooh, I can see you're happy. That's serious. That is lifelong, debilitating loss in the formative years before age 6. Their personalities are not set. My wife is a specialist in early childhood development. Their personalities are like soft concrete until they're 6. But once they hit 6, they're set. You can train them, you can educate them, you can give them more knowledge. but the personalities and the fundamental identity it sets. My granddaughter's set. It's almost too late for her. I'm not asking you to move mountains. I'm just saying, please, for the sake of what's right and good and true, seek out what's best for everybody. And if heroes truly work there, which I believe they do, it involves physical risk. Thank you.
Andy Thornton.
Good evening, Mr. Brown, Dr. Parker, members of the board. My name is Andy Thornton. I am a parent of 2 Newport News Public School students and a product of Newport News Public Schools as an elementary student at BC Charles Elementary. First, I want to thank you for what you do, the service you provide to our community. I know that you all are in difficult positions. The last couple years have been unprecedented, and I thank you for using common sense to protect our students, our teachers, and staff, and I want to encourage you to continue to do so. The law, as it stands, requires you to continue to follow CDC guidelines and require a mask, and I encourage you to do so unless and until that law changes. Further, it's very important to me, as a strong supporter of public education, to remind you and to encourage you to continue to remember that public education is as close to an equal opportunity for our students as anything in our society. And the rumblings of the fringe is starting to come. There's a new governor and there's new legislators, and we're starting to hear this ideology about CRT, and this is something that's not even taught in our schools. We all know this, and it's a hot button issue, and it's garbage. So please continue to say that proudly and loudly, that we don't teach those things. We teach history the way it's meant to be taught, not the revisionist history that we were taught in my generation. Please continue to support our most vulnerable students, the LGBTQ plus students. Resist the temptation to give in to Christian ideologies that have no place in our schools. And resist these ideas of book bans and just generally this scare tactics that are coming. They're coming, and I want you to be strong. Finally, please try to support our teachers, our staff, make it easier for them, not harder. This snitch line that the governor has put forward is garbage. Please remember, they have the toughest jobs out there, and it's not one that many of us could do. And continue to use common sense and resist getting into insanity and hysteria. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Valerie Fashion. And after Valerie Fashion will be Steve Bellinger.
Good afternoon, good evening, Dr. Parker and the school board members. My name is Valerie Fashion. I am here tonight as an activist and advocate for children attending the Newport News Public Schools. I'm concerned about the lack of basic education the children in this school system are not receiving. Newport News demographics have changed. Newport News has a larger, limited English-speaking community in the school system. Some of these students are in trouble per the Virginia education system because no ESL help is available to them in some of these schools. Not addressing these issues creates an inequity in their education. There's a huge learning loss among the Newport News students. Your Great Minds curriculum is a failure. Students are crying in the classroom. They're getting upset because they cannot grasp this math concept. No homework is being sent home for reinforcement. No textbooks are being used, just papers. Students are not given any spelling words, but they're expected to pass a spelling achievement test. Students are not encouraged to correct the misspelled words. It's being posted in schools on the boards, in the hallways. Students are required to recognize words they've never seen or pronounced before on their achievements tests. The school system is not providing a top-rated education to our children. Many of these elementary school classes are overcrowded. The students are not protected from the virus. You guys are protected because you have a shield. We have 4 kids, young kids, K-4, elementary school, sitting at a table with no protection, no dividers in between them. The elementary school classes, they need to have a full-time assistance in them. We are dealing with children that are basically teaching themselves because they have a lot of independent and free time, and they spend it on their laptops. It's extremely difficult for a teacher to provide instruction when some of the children disrupt the classes. This is done on a daily basis. Some of the students, some of the teachers have to deal with students talking loud in the class. They're running out of the classrooms. They're talking back to the teachers. They're talking back to the administrators. They're talking back to everybody. They're talking back to each other. The students are rude to each other. Somebody needs to intervene with these students. They do not respect authority. Newport News have a system that's full of left behind children. Again, this is from observation. They're left behind in reading, the multiplication tables, understanding why they need an education, respecting adults, respecting each other.
Ms. Fashion, you do have to wrap up now.
All right. Math, spelling, English.
I mean, your time has expired, Ms. Fashion.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Steve Bellinger.
How's everybody doing tonight? Nice Super Bowl we had. 70,000 people unmasked. The whole world is unmasking. The whole illogical thing happening here over the past year is hurting my brain because it's absurdity. We all know the rhetoric and guidance that's been spewed out at us across all forms of media from the government and officials. Stop the spread for 2 weeks, social distancing, wear the mask, take the vaccine, take the booster. It goes on and on. All these things that adults have been doing have long-term effects on our kids, physical, psychological, and developmental. Extended mask use causes physical problems. Our kids need oxygen. Wearing masks prevents the oxygen they need to perform. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, 0.04%. CO2 is dangerous at 10%. Union construction workers do not wear masks all day long. They take breaks every so often, maybe once an hour to get fresh air. Our kids are wearing masks at the bus stop, on the bus, during the day, throughout the whole day, then on the bus back home. That's a total of 8 hours for my little guy anyway. And with a 30-minute break, maybe, I'll bet not many of us here wear a mask all day long for 8 hours a day, straight without breaks, especially if we have closed offices or take smoke breaks or anything else like that. We try to get these masks off as much as we can. And it's really frustrating that our kids have to work in an environment where they have to constantly wear these masks all day long. At least give them fresh air breaks. They can't even go outside and take a fresh air break. They have to wear masks outside even. It's causing shortness of breath, headaches, acne, weakened immune system, and chronic respiratory conditions. Masks impede emotional recognition, which is needed at this time in kids' development. Masks are uncomfortable and cause speech and hearing issues. They do not allow kids to learn body and facial language, which I think is 80% of their recognition. I'm not sure about that, but kids' developmental, kids need to be able to develop it at this age, and they're having a problem doing it. June 2020 study shows masks have a high failure rate. They're designed to filter air coming in, not going out. N95 masks are not designed for kids' smaller faces. There's been several studies that have shown wearing masks only modestly reduces infection. Denmark, Bangladesh, Brown University studies, they've all got information in there. And yes, Governor Youngkin passed an executive order, which everybody knows about, but the school board and union has negated the parents and kids' rights to choose. Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, Gloucester counties, they're allowing parents to choose. Newport News schools do not have that right. Union negotiations are a big part of why schools haven't followed the governor's executive order to allow parents the choice to wear a mask or not.
Thank you.
If there's a change in the condition of school processes, then the union will renegotiate a deal. Schools do not want to lose the money they're receiving for keeping these masks on
Your time
for
has
kids.
expired.
Just 1 minute.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bellinger.
This is putting a price tag on our kids. Students have a right to choose their health. Okay, let me put my pandemic mask back on.
Fred Louie. And after Fred Louie, we have Jamie Gonzalez and Maya Pearson.
Good evening. I'd like to take my time. Thank you all, by the way, very much. I'd like to take the time to talk about critical race theory. And the first thing I want to say is that it's a wedge issue. And I think the real issue is not that, because it's not taught in the schools anyway. I think the real issue contains the word critical in it, and it's critical thinking skills. And it's something that our teachers are experts at already doing. And I think we need to turn that task over to the experts, our teachers. And when we think about Virginia's history, really America's history, it contains a story that's glorious, it's heroic, it's extraordinary, it's good, it's fair, sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's embarrassing and even worse. Why? Because we're human beings. The human story contains all of those elements because that's who we are. It contains racism. It contains Revolutionary War. It contains Jim Crow. It contains all of that. And I think in order for our kids to grow up as fully functioning adults, of being able to think for themselves, they need to be able to, in order to appreciate who they are, they need to have the whole story at their disposal. And when they can do that and evaluate things in balance, then they can make decisions for themselves, appreciate our full story for themselves, and then be able to pass on their stories to their children, and their children can pass on those stories to their children. And I think that's really the point of what education is about. And I think that there is and I use this word in the best sense of the word, the myth of being an American it's a story that tells us who we are. And the myth of being an American is that we are an extraordinary people. We are a people who overcome challenges. Jack Kennedy, President Kennedy, had a favorite quote of his, which is, "Those who ignore the lessons of history are condemned to repeat them." And we dare not ignore any important element of our history. Because when we do, we are condemned to repeat them. We are at a critical time in our lives as a people right now.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
And thank you very much.
Jamie Gonzalez, Maya Pearson. Okay.
Then, okay.
We feel that after COVID-19, mental health of students has been put under a lot of stress. So both due to quarantine and homeschooling. So we think that students can benefit greatly from having better access to certified therapists and guidance, having more particular guidance counselors, as our current guidance counselors mainly help with coursework, and students wouldn't want to talk to the person about their home life as they're the same person they talked about their school life. Anxiety and increased stress have been a result from switching from homeschooled to attending school daily. And because of all the time spent at home, it's harder for students to socialize, to socialize now that they're back in the building and amongst their peers. So we ask you to address this issue with the utmost urgency, because this is a very urgent issue and it directly affects a lot of students and their academics. And thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you for believing in science and keeping our students and teachers safe. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Thank you. We want to thank everyone for your thoughtful comments this evening during Section 2, audience with the public. We do have some additional cards, which are going to be in Section 4 and in Section 6. So those of you who have those cards, you'll have that opportunity to speak. We're now going to move on to Section 3, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda includes 3.01 minutes from the work session on January 18th, 2022, 3.02 minutes from the regular session meeting, January 18th, 2022, 3.03 minutes from the school board retreat, January 28th, 2022, 3.04 financial reports, including the revenue report for January 2022, the expense report for January 2022, and child nutrition reports for January 2022, 3.05 the personnel report, 3.06 revised school board norms and protocols, 3.07 budget transfer. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Ms. Amon. All right, any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Hunter.
Mr. Chairman, I was not here for items number 3.01 to item number 3.04. I was wondering, I'd like to make a motion that we could take those items 3.01 to 3.04 in one vote, and then take 3.05 to 3.07 in another vote.
All right. So at this time, since we have a first and a second, what I'm going to ask is if we can have a vote to remove that motion, so we can make another main motion.
Right. I would like to amend the motion.
You'd like to make a motion to amend? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion.
All right.
That we have. Well, we have two separate motions. One to have items number 3.01 through items number 3.04 in one motion, and then items number 3.05 through items 3.07 to another motion.
To a second motion. All right. So there's been a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Second by Mr. Harris. All right. At this time, any questions? All right. There being none, then we're going to call the roll, and keep in mind what we're doing. We're voting on the motion to amend, which will separate the consent agenda into two pieces, 3.01 to 3.04 and 3.05 to 3.08.
That's correct.
All right. Then, Madam Clerk, would you please go ahead and call the roll?
Okay. I'm clear that this first vote is for sections 3.1 to 3.4.
It's just to make an amendment
to make a
to
motion.
pull it out.
To pull it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Harris,
4.
Mr. Hunter,
4.
Mrs. Searles Law,
4.
Mrs. Amon,
4.
Dr. Best,
4.
Mr. Ely,
4.
Mr. Brown.
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. So since that motion to amend was successful, Mr. Hunter, would you like to make a motion for 3.01 to 3.04?
I'd like someone to do that. I'm going to do the second part because I wasn't here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I will remake my
All right.
motion. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda to include items 3.01, 3.02, 3.03, and 3.04.
All right. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second to that motion?
A second.
All right. Second by Dr. Best. Any discussion? All right. There being none, then Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris,
4.
Mr. Hunter?
Abstain.
Okay. Mrs. Searles Law?
4.
Mrs. Amon?
4.
Dr. Best?
4.
Mr. Ely?
4.
Mr. Brown?
4.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Then now we would need a motion to approve items 3.05 to 3.07.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items 3.05, 3.06, and 3.07.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
Okay, second by Mr. Hunter. Any discussion? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris?
4.
Mr. Hunter?
4.
Mrs. Searles Law?
4.
Mrs. Amon?
4.
Dr. Best?
4.
Mr. Ely?
4.
Mr. Brown?
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, so as I understand, congratulations are in order because included in our personnel report are some administrative appointments. And Dr. Parker, I believe you have some comments on to introduce those appointees.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
We need to do, I need to actually pull this out
Okay.
and do the,
All right, so then we'll
Make a motion.
We'll take a motion first and then Dr.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's personnel recommendation for Donald Fairhart for Chief of Operations, Ramonia Lynch for Supervisor of Library Media Services, Bruno Morales as ESL Instructional Supervisor, and Thomas McKenna as Supervisor of Technology Support.
All right, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hunter. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris?
4.
Mr. Hunter?
4.
Mrs. Searles Law?
4.
Mrs. Amon?
4.
Dr. Best?
4.
Mr. Ely?
4.
Mr. Brown?
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, now we can clap.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to introduce our appointment for this evening on tonight's agenda. First, I'll start with Mr. Donald Fairhart as the new Chief of Operations for Newport News Public Schools. Mr. Fairhart, would you stand, please? Good to see you, sir. Mr. Fairhart has a Master's of Business and Administration from Old Dominion University, a Master of Arts in Special Education from Hampton University, and is currently pursuing his Doctorate in Educational Policy and Leadership with Virginia Polytech Institute and State University. And Mr. Fairhart currently works for the Virginia Department of Education as the Deputy Superintendent and the Chief of Staff. He has served as Interim Superintendent and Chief of Staff for Chesterfield County Public Schools and Executive Director for the Southeast Cooperative Education Programs. He was formerly the Superintendent of Middlesex County Public Schools and Director of Assessment and Assistant Director of Special Education for Gloucester County Public Schools. He was an instrumental specialist, Special Education Department Chairman, and Special Education Teacher for York County School Division. Mr. Fairhart will be overseeing our operations in Newport News Public Schools, which includes a lot of different areas: transportation, buildings, construction, food services. So we look forward to having you on board. And Mr. Fairhart, thank you for joining us, and congratulations. If you have any family members or supporters here this evening, we'd like to give you a moment to greet the board and introduce your family today.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Parker. Don't have any family with me. My wife's a fitness instructor. She's teaching class tonight. My oldest daughter is working, and then my 16-year-old is in driver education class. So I'm on my own, but a lot of friendly faces. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a privilege to be a part of the team. I look forward to starting and carrying on the good work that's going on here in the city of Newport News. And lastly, happy School Board Appreciation Month. Certainly you all deserve more than a month, but take your month and enjoy it. And it's an honor to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Fairhart. Welcome aboard. Mr. Chairman, our next appointment is I'd like to introduce Ms. Ramonia Lynch as the new Supervisor of Library Media Services. Ms. Lynch has a bachelor's degree in Business Administration and Accounting from St. Leo College, a master's in elementary education from Hampton University, and a library media specialist certification from Longwood University. Ms. Lynch began her career as a teacher at Rich Neck and R.O. Nelson Elementary Schools and Huntington Middle School before becoming a media specialist at Rich Neck Elementary School and Passage Middle School. So she's been around. Ms. Lynch has been serving as the lead media specialist currently at Denby High School since 2008. Ms. Lynch, are you here with us Dave, thank you. Please stand. Congratulations. And we'd like to afford you the same opportunity. If you have any family members here, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm excited, and this is my daughter, Morgan Song. She's here to support me.
Welcome aboard. And thank you for being a long-standing member of Newport News Public Schools, and we're looking forward to your leadership in the next position.
Thank you.
I'd also like to introduce Mr. Bruno Morales as the new ESL Instructional Supervisor. Now, Mr. Morales has a bachelor's degree in English from Abilene Christian University and a Master of Multicultural Multilingual Education from George Mason University. Mr. Morales began his career as an ESL teacher in 2006 with Potomac Middle School. He worked as an ESL teacher and adult ESL teacher at Warwick High School before becoming an ESL lead teacher at Denby High School. He is currently the lead instructional specialist for Newport News Public Schools. We'd like to congratulate Mr. Morales. Please stand, sir, and welcome aboard. And well, thank you for your next phase of your professional career. Do you have any family members with you or anyone you'd like to introduce us?
Yes, I'm here with my wife and my 2 kids, and luckily enough, I get along with my father-in-law.
Thank you. And as you're aware, we have a very, very strong ESL program, and Mr. Morales will be filling some big shoes for the supervisor who preceded him. We look forward to your leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final appointment this evening is Mr. Thomas McKenna. He is our new supervisor of technology support services. Mr. McKenna has an Associate's of Science in Business Administration from Tidewater Community College. He started his career with the U.S. Navy as a lead help desk technician, then as a field service manager for Electronic Systems Inc., and is currently serving as a supervisor of information technology for Portsmouth Public Schools. Mr. McKenna holds 12 information technology certifications. He will definitely be a big addition to our team. We would like to welcome Mr. McKenna to the Newport News family. Is Mr. McKenna here? Thank you. Second back. Congratulations, sir. And welcome aboard. Do you have any family members or guests here this evening with you?
I don't. They're on duty tonight, so thanks for the opportunity and the privilege, and we're working with everyone.
Look forward to your leadership, sir. Thank you for joining us, and welcome aboard. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes the appointments for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Parker. So now we are on to item 4 of our agenda, which is our action items. As planned in the February Chairman update memo that is sent to the board, the chair is now going to recognize Ms. Rebecca Amon. Ms. Rebecca, you have the floor, and I believe you have some comments for the board.
Oh, sure. Thank you, Chairman Brown. I appreciate it. I just wanted to take a moment to speak a bit on the mask mandate since we didn't get into it at our last meeting. So I just wanted to share some thoughts. As we've seen tonight, and I've heard, and I'm sure we all have heard in recent weeks, many on both sides feel very strongly on the issue, and it may be rapidly coming to a close. Parents simply want to exercise their right to determine if their children will wear masks or not. One of the significant concerns I've received, and I don't know if others have, is that our board hasn't even held a vote regarding the mask mandate. And I just wanted to take a moment to correct, based on a recent court decision, a misunderstanding we've been hearing. Early on, some have maintained that current law requires schools to have a mask mandate given CDC recommendations, but this Virginia Supreme Court ruling recently, I think, indicates we don't. This was the Chesapeake parents' petition, where they petitioned Chesapeake to not have an opt-out. And we read in the news that the Supreme Court did not uphold their petition. They dismissed it on technicalities, but the really interesting part was where the Virginia Supreme Court indicated their thoughts on current law, even without some of the laws being discussed right now. They explained that the laws, as much as practicable language, indicates that the boards, it gives school boards the discretion to modify or forego CDC recommendations as appropriate for the board's individual circumstances. And they reiterated that. So it seems like the Virginia Supreme Court has said that school boards have discretion and license to decide. To me, that seems we should be, as a board, making and discussing these decisions rather than delegating them, similar to a budget where we would get a recommendation from the administration, but then discuss and decide to accept or reject something. I think we are all aware, we all know there's a bill being considered with possibly a March 1st effective date. And I was just looking up earlier this evening, it appears that request has been approved by the Senate as of this evening, so it simply awaits House of Delegates approval. So on the one hand, this discussion may be considered moot, but on the other, my personal observations on how masks have been used in schools and our personal experience to me indicates we're not getting a whole lot of value or protection out of them anyway. The type of mask, some students can wear masks that are effectively mesh, dropping them, picking them up. We enjoyed COVID going through our house this past January, brought home by one of our students, our sons, who's in a mask mandate school. Brought it home, really hadn't had play dates. We had just been really busy. Shared it with the rest of the family, so even with the mask mandates, it went through our house. We're all fine, thankfully. But our personal experience and what I've observed, we're not really living a mask mandate as it is right now with the way everyone is handling it. So given that, and I know there's also been some discussion, we received emails from the Virginia School Boards Association that it's important for local school divisions to maintain their control over the divisions, that it would make sense for us to maybe have an affirmative vote on the mask mandate. I understand York has voted to go optional next Tuesday. Isle of Wight is planning for March 1st. That may be more political than anything. But I would like to make a motion just for discussion purposes that Newport News would make masks optional effective next Tuesday, the 22nd. I think that would give us plenty of time to make an opt-out in parent view. And we've seen the numbers come down, and the way I've seen masks being used, I don't think we would see a big blip or hiccup in our numbers. So I would like to make that motion if anyone would like to second it for discussion purposes.
All right, and so to clarify, your motion would be for a parental opt-out effective this upcoming Tuesday, to make that motion an action item for the February board meeting.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Amon. At this time, I'll call and ask on the board if there is a second. Hearing none, then we will move on to the board. We thank you for your comments and for your analysis. Appreciate the Supreme Court ruling that you shared with me this afternoon. I read that and that was very enlightening. So now we are going to move on to item 4.01, which is the 2022-23 proposed school calendar. And Dr. Parker, I believe you have a presentation for us.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I asked Mrs. Brooks to come back up. She did present the calendar to the board and followed up with the subsequent posting of that calendar for the community. But she wanted to share a little bit of information on what was received from that, from the community and also any other information that, for the board's decision-making this evening. So, Mrs. Brooks.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Parker. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Parker. When the board approved the 2021-2022 school calendar last April, you requested that we consider a pre-Labor Day calendar for next school year. The school division's calendar committee prepared a draft calendar that we shared with you in December and then posted that calendar on our website in January for input. This evening, I would like to share some of the feedback that was received from the calendar from the community as you consider taking action on the proposal. But first, I'd like to share just some general information about the pre-Labor Day calendar that's being proposed for this year or for next year. So just as a reminder, we are proposing to begin school on Monday, August 29th, which is a week prior to Labor Day. We base that start date on responses from our past family and staff surveys, and in working with the 3 school divisions that opened prior to Labor Day this current school year, and they are York County, Williamsburg, James City County, and Gloucester County. And under state law, school divisions that open prior to Labor Day must also close schools on the Friday before the holiday weekend, so our calendar proposal reflects that as well. Now, we've shared these benefits that we have seen in opening a week earlier, and I'd like to just quickly review those once again this evening. It will allow schools to more quickly address gaps in student learning that have occurred due to the pandemic and quarantine protocols that have continued through this current school year. The earlier start will allow for increased instructional times for students preparing for high-stakes tests, such as advanced placement and international baccalaureate program tests that are conducted in the spring. And the earlier start will also provide opportunities for professional development for our staff throughout the year, with the flexibility to provide additional supports for teachers and students. Now, in our past calendar surveys, students expressed the benefit of being able to enter the summer job market sooner, since they are often competing with college students who typically complete their coursework in May. And we also see the earlier start to the year as an opportunity to begin the school division's robust summer learning program for students sooner in June, so that they may continue the instructional momentum from the school year. Now, when we posted the draft calendar on our website for feedback, we received numerous comments in favor of the draft and some concerns. From those who were concerned, three major themes about the pre-Labor Day calendar emerged, and they related to the later short notice about the proposed change to the pre-Labor Day start for next year. Second, the shortness of the upcoming summer of 2022, especially following a stressful pandemic year. And third, the 2-day earlier start for teachers in addition to the 1-week early start to accommodate the pre-Labor Day calendar. So now I'd like to talk a little about each of those concerns. Now, the first concern about the late notice to our NMPS families and staff about the Labor Day start. After the school board expressed interest in the pre-Labor Day start last April, the Newport News Calendar Committee and the Peninsula Calendar Committee would typically begin their work in October and November. However, you may recall that given the stress placed on staff and families due to the pandemic and quarantine protocols last fall, the Calendar Committee instead focused on addressing wellness concerns for this current school year, which resulted in proposing the Wellness Week in November of 2021. Now, after that, the committee developed a draft pre-Labor Day calendar that was shared with the board for questions in December, and then presented the draft calendar at your January school board meeting. We then posted the calendar on our website for feedback, shared it with the superintendent's advisory committees, and placed a link to the calendar for feedback in our electronic staff and community communications. Now, we realize that the pre-Labor Day start will require some of our families to adjust their summer schedules, and that some families may have finalized plans in place. However, our goal was always to provide notification to our families as soon as possible so that they could plan accordingly. Now, the second most frequently submitted concern was regarding the very short summer for 2022, particularly for lead teachers and others who typically return earlier in August, especially after following a stressful pandemic year. We know that the first summer to precede a pre-Labor Day start will always be a challenge, given that it will be the shortest summer of the years that follow. It would challenge us to adjust our summer learning program, our band camps, athletic training, and other schedules to accommodate the earlier start. Fortunately, the summers that follow will continue to be the usual length. However, it will ultimately allow us to end the school year earlier on June 9th in 2023 versus June 20th that we will be ending this current school year. And the third most frequently expressed concern was from teachers regarding the 2-day earlier start in August, in addition to the 1-week earlier start for the pre-Labor Day calendar. Now, while the number of teacher work days prior to students returning is 2 days longer in August on the proposed calendar, they are not additional days. They are required for teachers to meet their 192-day contractual obligation that has been in place for many years now. However, our leadership team is considering various options for implementing the 2 days, such as for teacher work days, floating days for professional development, etc. Now, lastly, I will leave you with this visual representation of the 2022-2023 proposed calendar. And I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share some of the feedback we received, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right.
Thank you.
So at this time, before I call for a motion, we have an opportunity to hear from the audience on the calendar. And at this point, I do not have any cards for the calendar, which means that we'd like to do first, we'll take a motion and then we'll have discussion and ask Ms. Brooks if we have any questions. So is there a motion to now approve the calendar?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the proposed school calendar, approve the 22-23 proposed school calendar as presented.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
A second.
All right, second from Dr. Best. All right, now, are there any questions for Ms. Brooks? All right, any further? Oh, yes.
I just have
yes.
one. So I want to make sure I'm understanding our time period here. We are starting a week early.
Yes.
And ending a week early.
Correct.
Okay. And I know, first of all, I want to thank you and your team for the time that you spent on this, because not only were you working on this, you all did a quick pivot on this year's calendar, on the 21-22 calendar, to better meet the needs of our students and those who serve our students. So thank you for that. It's interesting what you get questions about or you get comments about from the community, and this happened to have been one that I got a lot of questions about. And so I will just relay for my peers, my board members here, and of course you and your staff, is that as we're moving forward, they have greatly appreciated you looking at the balance between planning and personal development time, such that they're able to get the tasks done that they need to do. So we have demonstrated that we are capable of doing that by our most recent update in the calendar. And so it was a good feeling to be able to say that the fact that this is being brought as a concern, that it will be addressed. So thank you in advance for helping, articulate that to our staff and to our families as well.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Any further comments? All right. There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris.
4.
Mr. Hunter.
4.
Mrs. Searles Law.
4.
Mrs. Amon.
4.
Dr. Best.
4.
Mr. Ely.
4.
Mr. Brown.
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Then the next item on our agenda is item 4.02, which is the Huntington Memorandum of Understanding. Dr. Parker?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have completed our negotiations, is a good word, with the city to finalize an agreement for the build of Huntington Middle School.
Apologies just for 1 second. We do have, so folks in the hallway, we do have open seats now in the auditorium here. So feel free to please come on in and have a seat.
So I'll continue here. This MOU, our Memorandum of Understanding, will allow the city to still maintain the fiscal responsibility of the construction project, as well as oversight of hiring the architect and builder. What has been missed in some construction projects in the past is the collaborative approach to building a school where the school division has someone on site to ensure our access to the site, to oversee the development of the building, to make sure that the designs meet the full middle school program. So we wanted to make sure that this Memorandum of Understanding, one, protected our interests, to make sure that the design and build will fit a full middle school program that will accommodate 600 or more students, would allow us to have appropriate access to all meetings associated with the building of Huntington Middle School, as well as access to the site when it's being built, to make sure that Newport News Public Schools interests are protected, and then to ensure that we're able to head off any problems, any problem issues with the build. Very complex building a school. There are a lot of issues that come up along the way, and if you're not on site and not having those conversations in advance, you end up with a lot of problems that you have to fix on the back end. So having a clerk of the works as part of that memorandum of understanding will allow us to have someone on site to protect our interests and work with the city in a closer way to ensure that that our rights are protected. We also wanted to engage with the city around cost mitigation. We know that there are going to be a lot of escalation in terms of inflation, material costs, personnel costs, and staffing as they build. So while we have an approved budget on the city side for the build of Huntington Middle School, we know that there's maybe some escalation in those costs as they get to the actual site work and development of that project. So having that conversation in advance and having it in writing that the city will build that building to scale, make sure that it supports an appropriate middle school program, and that we have ways to address any issues along the way is in the best interest of Newport News Public Schools. I don't think I've mentioned to the members of the board that with the board's consideration of this memorandum of understanding this evening, the city has also planned to have to entertain a vote on the memorandum as well. I just recently spoke to the city manager, and I applaud their efforts in agreeing to do that publicly. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions that you may have regarding that. Everyone has seen the document, and it is loaded in board docs for the public's consumption as well.
All right. So before we call for the motion, again, we'll take this opportunity to hear from the audience. And I do have one card from the audience in regards to the Huntington MOU, and that's from Ms. Pam Hall. And so at this time, I invite Ms. Pam Hall to come forward and make comments.
Good evening. As the history of the United States is being censored, the citizens of the Southeast community are adamant on preserving the history and sites of the Southeast community, especially Huntington. 3401 Orchid Avenue is synonymous with Huntington, and to allow City Council to rewrite our history is unacceptable. Huntington High School memorabilia was tossed in dumpsters and put on the street. Outraged citizens in the Southeast community retrieved many of the items. Lillian Lovett made provisions to have the yearbook stored at the Newsom House. Yes, the citizens of the Southeast community want a new modern Huntington Middle School as soon as possible. In my opinion, you, the school board members, have a powerful voice and the upper hand. You have 5 blocks of prime property the city wants. Negotiate a better deal for the Southeast community and our children. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hall. And there being no additional cards, or Madam Clerk, are there any additional cards on this topic?
No, sir.
Okay. There being no additional cards, and at this time I'll ask the board for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Huntington MOU as presented.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Hunter. All right, any questions for Dr. Parker this time? All right, any further comments or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would say that I'm not aware of any historical items being disposed at the Huntington site that have significant value, but I'd like to know about anything that has been retrieved and how those items were disposed. So if there's anything that I need to know about that, and I am contacting my supervisor of maintenance to verify that, but that is something that I'm not aware of, and I just want to make sure I investigate that. So if I have any information regarding that, or if any citizens have any information for me, please contact me and let me know, because that should never occur.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. All right, there being no further discussion, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Harris.
4.
Mr. Hunter.
4.
Mrs. Searles Law.
4.
Mrs. Amon.
4.
Dr. Best.
Yes.
Mr. Ely.
4.
Mr. Brown.
4.
Motion carries 7-0.
4. 6-1?
6-1, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure I put it.
All right. Thank you. Then now, that moves us on to section 5 of our agenda. So we're now into the reports and information. And 5.01 is the monthly school update. Dr. Parker, we'll see if we can get us back on schedule.
Well, we will start with the monthly school update. And Again, the board, at the board's request, we're completing this update with information that we feel is new information or vital for the public to know. We will start off with a little bit of health related information, and then we'll switch to academics and athletics. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Carlson, who handles our health metrics, and she will give us an update on any relevant statistics that we have recently recovered. Mrs. Carlson, are you with us? Thank you.
Most of our state remains in the high level of transmission, as indicated as the graphic at the bottom right of the screen. The transmission level in the city of Newport News remains high, with a rate of new cases at 223 reported last week. In addition, the percentage of positive PCR tests is at 12.7%, and both of these figures show a decrease from the previous week. Next slide, please. Reported COVID cases within Newport News have decreased since the surge following winter break. When we returned to school and work the week of January 3rd, we reported 466 positive student cases and 186 positive employee cases. By February 4th, which was the most recent data available by school and work sites, we were down to 92 positive student cases and 24 positive employee cases. This is a quick update on our VISTA testing program. We've partnered with the Virginia Department of Health and the Virginia Department of Education to offer free pooled COVID-19 testing through the Virginia School Screening Testing for Assurance program. All testing will be completed through pooled PCR tests, and of course that detects the virus that causes COVID-19. Testing will begin with our student athletes in middle and high school. Additional students and staff will be added at a later date. Participation is voluntary. Each participant must have a signed consent form on file with the school site where testing will occur. Consent forms are currently available online on our athletics page and on our COVID dashboard and Safe Return to School tab. We're ready to move forward with testing, waiting on consent forms to be returned to our VISTA testing coordinator, Keisha Thompson. Athletic directors and administrators in our middle and high schools are aware of the program and are promoting participation. And once we begin, Mako, which is the vendor that we've been partnered with, will come to each of our school sites and they will swab our students and our athletes who have signed consent forms. And that's my update for this evening.
Okay, we'll move on to teaching and learning. And Dr. May Lamont is approaching the finish.
Good evening, Chairman Brown, Vice Chair Searles Law, Dr. Parker, members of the board. Pleasure to be here this evening. I have a brief update for you guys on what we've been working on with teaching and learning. And our first is I want to recognize the hard work of our school counselors. As you know, last week was School Counselor Week, and they do so much every single day. And to go through everything that they do would probably be a whole presentation in itself. But I just want to give a brief overview of some of the work that we're doing to help prepare our students for college and careers. So we have something called Naviance, which is a new technology platform which helps align a student's interest to their career and helps prepare them for college and their career interest. It will particularly take their interest, give them specific careers that it aligns to, and also coursework that will help them get where they need to go. So our counselors have been working diligently to expose all students to the Naviance platform. They've been going into classrooms and doing lesson plans with them. They have done activities that are virtual and allow our students to go on virtual college trips. They have been helping them explore college and careers through the Naviance platform. They walk them through the Virginia Common App, and for those of you who are unaware of what that is the one application that you can apply to many colleges through, so you don't have to fill out 10 applications, you can only fill out one. They also do a career interest profiler with the students in the classroom. There's a resume builder in there that they walk our high school students through. And of course, there's a scholarship search as well, and they help the students identify scholarships that fit their interest. They've been working diligently as well as promoting our specialty programs. And for those of you who know, we have lots of schools in Newport News, lots of students. They travel to middle schools, they travel to elementary schools. They pull kids into their offices, they go into classrooms. They talk about all the programs that are available, including dual enrollment, AP courses, or the early college program. They talk about the apprenticeships that are available to students, New Horizons, Virtual Learning Academy. They speak to that interest as a part-time model or whether it's a full-time option. And of course, they talk about all the magnet programs that we have available as well. They hold many, many family nights, as well as our family engagement specialists, but they work in conjunction. But they've been holding a lot of family nights, particularly to get our parents prepared to fill out that FAFSA, talking about the importance of filling out the FAFSA, the deadlines to that, and then how to apply for those college scholarships. They're helping our students by bringing in virtual on-site admissions. So they're bringing in colleges and universities to have a virtual admission for our students. They're also going through Virtual College Application Week, which is a week where students can actually go on site and fill out their application. They don't even have to do it at home. So as you can see, they're doing so many different things on top of their original job duties. So when we say thank you to all the school counselors from the Department of Teaching and Learning, and I know you guys yourselves want to say thank you as well. So if you're at home listening, we appreciate you. Now we know our teachers are working it. Right? We know that they put in many hours during the school day and after the school day on the weekends to grade papers and do lesson plans, and then through all the challenging times that we have right now. Then on top of that, they're still doing things after hours for our kids to prepare them not only for the SOL, but to give them opportunities to enrich and have experiences that they might not have outside of school or even in the classroom. One of our most famous ones are We Leap, where we're giving enrichment to students after school and on weekends. And if you look at the little center picture right there, you see a little boy dissecting an owl pellet, which is owls eat rodents and voles. They regurgitate them, and then you can tear them apart and look and experiment with them. And that is part of the We Leap program, and that was on a Saturday. And you can see that a mom had posted that on social media. We also do it in 8 elementary schools and 1 middle school. We have lots of difference. We just had a coach from CNU come in and talk about athletics for our students. So various STEM activities are going on, literacy activities, all after hours with lots of students taking part in that. Then on top of that, we have our teachers that are bringing kids in on Saturday. It's optional. It's not forced. It's if you want to come, transportation is provided, and our teachers are helping them prep for the SOL. Right now, they just wound down with the writing SOL, and they prepped them for that. But as we approach the SOLs for May, they're going to pick right back up and offer the same thing to our students as well. The last thing that I want to talk about is just talking about the next Special Education Advisory Committee that is going to be on March 29th at 4:30 p.m. The meeting is open to the public. Everybody can attend. Just like today, you can come and fill out a speaker card and come and present or talk to the committee and speak to your concerns or questions that you might have. We just want to point out that if parents do have a concern, we know it's hard waiting for 4 meetings over a year. So during that time, you can address any concerns or questions online. The link is right there, and those emails are sent directly to our Executive Director of Student Advancement and to our Compliance Support Specialist. So that's it for my presentation this evening. Unless you have any questions, we'll move on to athletics.
Dr. Manglamata, our board members usually may get every now and then a call regarding special education. That link is on the website, and do you know where it's located, under what tab, or do you want to send some information out to them? Because I wanted them to know if you get a special education question, that goes straight to the executive director of student advancement. But the teacher or the parent can also talk to their special education case manager. So we also encourage them at the site level, if they haven't spoken to the student's case manager, they could contact them as well. So we'll share the link to that so the board members will have that available to them.
Yeah, it's right at the main link, as you can see, and if you just type SPED right after it, it'll take you there.
Okay.
Without seeing the website, I can't navigate unless I see it, but just type SPED right after the main homepage.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Manglamata.
Thank you all.
I'll pause for a second if anyone had any questions before I get moving to athletics. Okay. Mr. Chairman, moving on to athletics. And we've talked about athletics and our upcoming planning for our next fiscal budget. But one of the things the board has asked of our school division team is to look into how can we make middle school more exciting for students. And what better way to start is adding clubs and activities. So we are investigating introducing a few additional middle school sports, bringing football, wrestling, and boys and girls soccer, and we're also considering, they have cheerleading clubs, but making cheerleading an active sport for the middle school teams. What better way to invest in our students than to create more student athletes at the middle school level who are grounded by both athletics and academics, moving into up to the high school level. So I wanted to share with the community that we're excited of working with our principals, our athletic directors, and coaches from around the community. We'll be meeting with them to start talking about what it will take to get some of these sports up and running, not only next year, but in years to come in our middle schools. Currently, we offer basketball, volleyball, and boys and girls track at the middle school level. So we're looking forward to expanding those opportunities for students in the middle school level. And I believe that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions or any comments? All right. I know time is running short, but I'm just going to make a comment because this has been 8 years in the making. Working so hard to expand middle school athletics, and this is a really momentous occasion, a great time. I know it's not official yet, so I'm going to save my exuberance for when we pass the budget. But I'm looking very, very much forward to adding that to our budget, and because that's really going to, I believe, pay great dividends for our youth, especially in reduction of youth crime and violence. We talk about making our schools safer. This is something that makes our schools safer. This is something that increases our graduation rates and keeps kids in schools. So, all right, so Mr. Ely, you want to?
I also want to say that I think this is amazing, the expansion of sports in our middle schools. I'm a strong component of when you keep our youth busy with activities, they stay on the right track. So by having football and wrestling, and it makes them better to get scholarships. Some of our children want to be professional wrestlers and soccer players and football, and if we start them off at an early age, they have a better chance of getting that scholarship, having a different route. And like you said, keeps the violence down in our communities. Mm-hmm. My mom always said, an empty mind is a devil workshop, so we definitely keep our children busy, and I'm glad that we're finally able to add these sports in our middle schools. And I think we're going to be one of the first school districts to do that. Is that correct?
We are. We believe Hampton is following suit with some sports, and we'll look forward to having someone to compete with other than Newport News School.
Somebody's got to lose.
Well, thank you for making it happen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Hunter.
And I just want to say I want to say thank you to my board and the staff that I have been ill over the last almost 2 months in the hospital at the last meeting. But I want to thank you all for the cards and the well wishes and all the prayers, and for me getting better. I'm here today. I'm not fully recovered, but again, thank you for, I heard your prayers out there, and I appreciate each one of them. Thank you.
Well, now we have our human resources update, item 5.02.
Yes, sir. Final report of this evening is on human resources. This is an annual report that we bring to the board and the community in the spring to just talk about where we are with staffing and how are we bringing in some of the best and brightest teachers in our school division. So Mrs. Farish, our Director of Human Resources, will provide the report.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Brown, Vice Chair Searles Law, board members, and Dr. Parker. This evening, I am going to share information regarding Human Resources annual recruitment, incentive, and retention initiatives. Recruitment and retention comes under our strategic goal, stewardship of resources. We strive to establish processes and procedures to recruit, hire, reward, and retain highly effective staff, all dedicated toward helping our students become college, career, and citizen ready. Now, as we know, the staffing shortage of teachers is not unique to NNPS. We have over 1,700 teachers. We have continued to hire throughout the year to fill vacancies throughout the school year. Our current data shows that we have received resignations and retirements, which has also increased our vacancies. Our hard-to-fill teacher positions have been in the areas of math, English, elementary, and special education. Additionally, instructional supports that we have to help with these vacancies, we have 245 instructional assistants. We do have a support pool of 469 support teachers. Of that 469, 442 are teachers and 27 are instructional assistants. Taking a closer look at our turnover for teachers, effective January 2021-22 for retirements, the data consists of retirees that have processed and those that are retiring effective the end of the school year. The number that have retired this year is 32, and the number that have been processed to retire effective the end of the year is 14. Thus, at this time, we have 46 retirements. Under resignations, the number of 44 is from July to February. Our records show the previous 3 years from July to February for teachers for resignations. For the 18-19 school year, we had 36 resignations. For the 19-20 school year, we had 40. And for the 20-21 school year, we had 26. That was during the virtual instruction. Thus, based upon resignations at this time, resignations are nominal. Taking a look at diversity in Newport News Public Schools. The City of Newport News racial distribution is fairly evenly distributed. However, our student population is 2/3 minority, and our teacher population is 1/3 minority. We're working on recruitment strategies and partnerships with HBCUs to hire more minority teachers, which I will address. We have developed many partnerships with our local universities to bring many of the students in their teacher programs to NNPS for their student teaching and then offers for careers. We have placed 146 student teachers as interns. We have placed approximately 150 student observers for the 2021-22 school year. This data is showing you the number of students over a 4-year period that have enrolled in education programs with local universities. You can see there has been some decrease in student enrollment, especially with the local HBCUs. We are communicating with the local HBCUs to discuss how we can together increase student teachers. Another part of our recruiting plan is what we call Grow Your Own, with a focus on filling the hard to recruit positions. Our Teacher in Residence program was established in partnership with local universities where NMPS pays for the tuition for the last year of the teacher's education program. The students are paired with a veteran teacher to learn and practice skills and knowledge in a high-need classroom. They commit to teach in NMPS for 3 years. The TIR program is open to anyone through the universities that meet the requirements. We currently have a former bus driver and a former nurse of the school district who are in our TIR program. We currently have 22 TIRs that are striving to grow to become full-time teachers with us. Our goal is for the 22-23 school year to have 10 TIRs from each university. With aspiring teachers, our goal has been to identify high school seniors who have been accepted to a college or university and plan to study education. We provide professional development sessions during the summer. We offer employment during the summer to stay connected to these students. We also have worked with instructional assistants that want to become teachers. We're working with these individuals to provide practicums, tuition reimbursement, and assignments that support them during their programs. We have an emerging teacher program that our current employees can go through a career switcher program with Old Dominion University. If they qualify, we pay for the participants' tuition and fees in exchange for a commitment that they will work for NMPS for 4 years. We have what we call Smart Start for our new teachers. When we hire the new teachers, we partner with Curriculum Instruction, and we provide new teachers a Teacher Institute. This is for our novice teachers for 2 years. New teacher welcome centers are set up for our new teachers. They meet with specialists and coaches. They have an opportunity to access Ignite catalog and register for over 100 professional development courses. During the new teacher welcome week, the new teachers start a new week the week before their contract. They receive assistance on curriculum, other professional development. They have a technology session and a human resources session. We also provide mentors and teacher coaches for additional support. Some additional supports for retention include, we have received a grant for approximately $8,000 for competitive grant application for Praxis and Virginia Communication and Literacy Assessment Assistance to support provisionally licensed and pre-service education candidates seeking full licensure in Virginia. We've also received another grant for approximately $8,000 for Praxis assistance to support racial diversity among provisionally licensed teachers seeking full licensure. Some incentives that we have currently in place for staff to aid during this time of staffing shortages. We've offered we give a $3,000 bonus to teachers that are coming in and filling our high need areas such as special education and elementary. We are paying teachers $30 an hour to cover vacant classes during their planning, and for staying after hours to stay back and stay and oversee our students as they're waiting for their buses. We're paying instructional assistants an additional $4.29 an hour to cover vacant classes. We have applied for a grant that will provide tuition assistance for $100,000 for over 3 years to set more employees on the path to become fully licensed teachers and retain teachers. The focus will be on our hard to recruit areas such as special education, math, and elementary. If we receive this grant, it would be in addition to our current NMPS tuition reimbursement program. And as we've spoken about before, currently we offer $600 a fiscal year, and we are looking to make a request to increase that. Further recruitment efforts include working with Troops to Teachers to help service members and veterans become certified and employed as teachers in K-12 schools. Also, most recently, thanks to Mr. Wright, we have become the 3 partners with the Virginia Department of Veterans Services to recruit veterans and military spouses. V3 stands for Virginia Values Veterans. It is organized under the Directorate of Veterans Education, Training, and Employment. This is a short list of our recruitment plans for February and March. These are universities and NNPS job fairs that we will be attending virtually and in person. And as I said, this is February and March. We have many more events planned throughout the school year. We are looking to explore new recruitment efforts with international recruitment. We are having discussions to explore hiring international teachers by working with a vendor that handles all processing and credentialing that aligns with Virginia Department of Education requirements. The exchange visitor programs are authorized to sponsor teachers for K-12 placements for 3 to 5 years. We hope to have more information in the near future on this initiative. Also, as a retention effort, we have the Virtual Learning Academy. In the next few months, you will hear more specifics about VLA. We currently have 32 internal teachers and 3 external teachers working for the VLA. We are preparing to grow the program, and advertising to recruit will start soon. Also, we currently have staff with teaching licenses that do not work in the classroom, but they are working part-time for the VLA. The VLA will offer varied opportunities. We have also faced some challenges with filling support positions. Some of our hard-to-fill positions are bus drivers, bus assistants, nurses, and child nutrition employees. All of these positions are critical to operations. Some of our recruitment and retention efforts for support staff positions consist of: we have been paying bus drivers $30 a day to drive additional vacant runs. We have a bonus referral program that pays $3,000 to employees that refer a bus driver, and that driver becomes contracted. We did receive a federal relief bus driver incentive grant for approximately $59,000. This money will be used for an incentive bonus for drivers that have consistently driven for 30 days from the start of the school year until November 30th. We are paying a sign-on bonus of $2,000 to newly hired bus drivers and $1,500 to newly hired bus assistants. Retention efforts for support staff also include an apprenticeship program. We have 4 apprenticeship programs that is sanctioned by the Department of Labor and Industry. Our 4 programs are child nutrition, transportation, custodial services, and clerical. Once the 2-year program is completed, the skills that are learned in these programs equip staff to be ready for the next level of advancement in their respective areas. We started this program in 2014. To date, we've had 156 employees go through the program, and we've graduated 81. Some of our recruitment strategies and tools include media advertising to expand our presence. This is accomplished through television commercials, radio, social media, streaming services, and job boards. We also plan to use what we call some old school methods of sending out mailers to specific areas in the community to invite members of the community to our job fairs. Additionally, we utilize software that allows us to host virtual job fairs. This allows for live chat and text features to reach more interested applicants. I want to conclude by saying thank you to the Human Resources staff for their hard and dedicated work. At this time, I would be happy to entertain any questions.
All right. Any questions this time?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr.
I see the numbers drop for us recruitments for Hampton University and Norfolk State. Is that because of the enrollment at the universities?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
time, I'm just going to ask one question about the bus drivers because I think it's important for the public to be aware. Let's take this opportunity to advertise our bus driver vacancies. What is the starting pay for a bus driver?
$15.80.
So $15.80 an hour. And what is the signing bonus?
$3,000.
And what are the minimum requirements?
Minimum requirements, we have a CDL program. If you do not have your CDL, we will train you and take you through the program so you can get your CDL.
So all you need is a clean driving
A
record.
clean driving record.
And you can make $15.80 an hour and get a $3,000 signing bonus.
Yes, sir.
Come drive a bus for us. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I wanted to take that opportunity to make sure we got that in. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our agenda is 5.03, the attendance report. 5.04, the membership report. 5.05, the construction report. Board members, you receive copies of those reports in your packets. Are there any questions? There being none, we'll move on to 5.06, comments by the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I will stay on script, so we'll stay on time this evening. But I do have some shout outs for our staff, and I want to make sure we do that. I'm glad that a previous report actually gave some kudos to our school counselors and our teachers. We need to uplift them, not only as a school division, but also as a community. Our teachers represent the best of who we are as an educational organization, and they see our students every day. So it's up to us to make sure that they are that we value them. They hear it, they see it, and that we appreciate the work that they do for us, because we can't have a great school division without good teachers. we could say we are, but we're not good unless we have good teachers. So we have to keep raising up the folks who are with us as we continue to work with them. I want to begin my comments this evening by announcing some exciting news. Our TEAMS program, Tiered Emotional and Mental Health Supports, has been named the 2022 Silver Magno Award winner for the National School Boards Association. So for our community, the Magno Awards is a national award, and they specifically look for school divisions who have successful programs that support students and have the data to show the effectiveness of that. So kudos to our mental health professionals. They submitted an application and were recognized nationally with the Silver Magno Award by the National School Boards Association. TEAMS, which is the name of the program, offers a continuum of social and emotional services to students, ranging from classroom lessons, addressing social emotional learning, to outpatient clinical mental health support. The TEAMS approach removes barriers to mental health care by providing services at no cost to the family. The program fully funds licensed clinical mental health therapists who serve in a school setting. Newport News Public Schools is the only school system in Southampton, Virginia to offer this type of mental health support in schools. We began that path together a few years ago by starting to hire clinically licensed social workers. Congratulations to Dr. Michelle Mitchell and our student support specialists, our mental health clinicians, school social workers, and school psychologists for earning this national recognition. And we look for the official media announcement and promotion, which will be coming out soon. So we would like to give them a round of applause for their, and I'm sure we will have an opportunity to acknowledge them in person at some point. I also extend my appreciation to our dedicated school board members for your work in public education and serving students. Thank you for your commitment and support to our students' families in the city of Newport News. And also congratulations to our board clerk, our wonderful board clerk, Mrs. Moore Buffalo. Thank you for all you do in the service of not only Newport News Public Schools, but the superintendent's office and the school board. We appreciate your effort. February is also Career and Technical Education Month, so I will take a moment to thank our CTE teachers. Our career technical education teachers lead more than 75 courses that prepare our students to earn industry certifications and marketable job skills. Thank you for ensuring that our students are college, career, and citizen ready. Newport News Public Schools is planning for the future and has embarked in a long-range facilities master plan to identify and prioritize the needs of our school buildings. This goal is to create, plan, and identify the funding needs to ensure that all of our students have world-class facilities. And we continue to encourage the community to support this effort. Part of this process will have several nights where community members may come in and receive information and also give us feedback on the quality of our schools, but also the direction that we're taking to improve our facilities. So please look out for that. We'll be sending information out in multiple ways when those opportunities come available. We have engaged a company, Cooperative Strategies, which is a national school facility planning firm, to assist us with the development of this plan, which will guide major capital improvements to better meet our educational needs. And I'm going to move on to Newport News Public Schools has been awarded over $82 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, the CARES Act, for school relief. We have identified key priorities for this funding, and the reason I'm mentioning this tonight is because that spending plan has been updated and is available as of tonight on the website. And we have, with every budget that we put on the website, we have a link for any community members now after reviewing that information to provide us any feedback. So we'll continue to update that spending plan and in a spirit of transparency, make sure that the community can access that information. And please feel free to give us some feedback. We do review the feedback that's provided by the community. So I want to remind families and students that tomorrow, February 16th, is a half-day dismissal for students. In-person instruction will be held in the morning, and then our students will participate in independent learning in the afternoon, and this will be a professional development day for our teachers. And also tomorrow, as part of that professional development, I have started a superintendent speaker series. And our first speaker in that series will be featuring Mr. Brandon Fleming, assistant debate coach at Harvard University and founder CEO of the Harvard Diversity Project. Brandon recruits underserved youth with no prior debate experience, and he trains them to compete against hundreds of elite debaters all over the world. For 4 consecutive years, every student cohort he has trained has won the international competition. We're looking forward to hearing Mr. Fleming's motivational and inspirational presentation tomorrow. And over 1,800 staff members have already signed up for this first of a kind speaker series. And that concludes my remarks for this evening, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Dr. Parker, which means that we're on to item 6, which is our another opportunity to hear from the public. And at this time, I do have 6 cards. Our first speaker is Reverend Ted Inquist.
Thank you so much. I want to introduce myself. My name is Reverend Ted Inquist, and with the endorsement of the previous candidate, John Collick, I am the front runner for the Republican endorsement of the next U.S. House of Representative this fall. And so as the next congressman of this district, I wanted to speak on this behalf tonight. It is a shame that this school board would not even listen and do a second to Mrs. Amon's motion earlier about relieving the mask mandate on our students, yet 4 out of the 7 that just shunned her did not wear a mask. You can't even sit here for a couple of hours with a mask on, and you're asking our children to do it all day long. There is no law that says they have to. There is a law that says you have to allow the parents free choice. It's already been codified. Let's go ahead and do the right thing and move forward and follow what we all teach, and that's equality. Equality is one of the most important things that we can lean on. It's treating each other with respect and fairness. Let's do that. Let's treat each other equal. Let's give this governor the equal respect we gave the last governor. When the last governor wrote Executive Order 79, everybody jumped on board and threw masks on everybody, even though we did not have signs to back it up. When this governor wrote Executive Order number 2, it was challenged in court and withstood the court of law as being constitutional, and it did away with every executive order that the previous administration had written. It's time to move forward. It's time to let our children breathe properly. I'm speaking on behalf of not only our students, but I have a daughter who is a student at CNU doing her student teaching right here in Newport News, and I have a wife of 27 years that 20 years has been teaching and has been nominated Teacher of the Year 4 times, and this is the 2nd year that she has won it, and she is over in York County. And so I know what the school system's about. I know the teaching aspect of it, and these teachers want to be unmasked as well. They need to be able to communicate with the children. Communication is key, and 55% of all communication is nonverbal. 38% is vocal with voice inflection. You don't get that through a mask. You need to get the teachers unmasked so they can communicate. And if through proper communication, our scores will increase. We will come up out of the gutter, and Newport News will be a predominantly high-ranked, high-testing school system once again, as long as we all work together in equality. God bless America, God bless Virginia, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Inquist. All right. Russell Emerson.
Hi, good evening. You have been scolded tonight, you have been praised tonight, and I know that you're used to both and all of it much. I'd just like to reiterate that I am really amazed, shocked, disappointed that Ms. Amon's motion was not even considered to be second. That's really very disappointing of this board. That really is disappointing that you wouldn't even consider a vote. That's upsetting. Reverend Inquist and myself were the first to speak after her presentation. All the others before us did not know that that was probably going to be said. I didn't know it, but I'm very disappointed in it. You know, due to all the scientific findings that we all know now, COVID in its various forms, Omicron, all of these mandates are being reduced nationwide, counties, cities. It's all in the news. If you listen and read the news, it's everywhere. Somebody said statistics internationally, other countries are masked. They're doing away with it. They're doing away with it rapidly. Listen, if you want to listen to the news, listen to the international news as well as home. And due to all of these decisions of the cities, counties, states, other school boards, districts, and workplaces, they're rescinding the mask mandates. And then due to the passing of SB 739 last week, we know it's coming. And just cut to the short of it, we just appeal to you to follow suit and rescind this mask mandates immediately, as soon as possible. Don't wait till the law pushes you to do it. Be a trendsetter in yourselves and do something for the good of the teachers, as we've heard, the students, the teachers, the parents, the administration. Allow them the option of the freedom of either wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. Let them decide what's best for their child and even their own health. Allow the children, the youth, the teachers, the administration, and everybody's already said this, but to once again be able to effectively communicate. All these things that have been presented tonight are amazing and wonderful for Newport News. But how are you going to play sports and create a sports program in other schools when they're forced to wear a mask? You know, by then it'll be over with by the time that's all approved. But just thinking about that, it's just ridiculous. You can't participate in school. Allow our kids to show their facial expressions. Let them smile again. Let them see each other's smiles, their laughter, their unmuffled voices. Allow them the freedom of choice. I'm not here to make threats to you tonight. I don't operate like that. I'm a pastor. I have a pastor's heart. In our congregation, we allow people the freedom. If you're safe wearing a mask, wear it. If you feel like you're safe not wearing a mask, don't wear it. But don't judge each other and respect each other. But I really feel like perhaps this school board has underestimated the move among parents. That's not a threat. That's a fact. There's a real move among parents to take back their kids. The children belong to the parents, not to a system. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Economy.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Economy from Chesapeake, and thank you for allowing me to come up and speak tonight from one of the sister cities. I will say I came here to speak about masks, but I was pretty impressed by some of the programs that were presented, so good job. Anyway, I'm here to speak about masks. Like I said, I'm from Chesapeake. What I've noticed sitting here all night is that every time any of you want to speak, you take off your masks because you know that people can't hear you speak clearly with your mask on. Also, speakers who come up here and are pro-mask, they take their mask off, they set it on the podium, and then they pick it back up when they're done and they put it on their face. And every speaker has germs, but they're picking up someone else's germs and putting it on their face. I'm the parent of 2 children with autoimmune diseases, one with type 1 diabetes and one with Crohn's. I am a mask optional parent. I'm here to tell you that I am tired of lawsuits being filed using children with disabilities as a reason to enforce masks. Not all parents who have kids with disabilities want their children masked. We make their medical decisions. We manage their care. School boards do not. Long-term mask wearing causes harm not only to speech and social delays. Also, as my type 1 diabetic son experienced chronic headaches and long-term congestion. After 25 absences, I pulled him out of public schools. His health was more important to me than a mask. I understand that many are still scared of COVID, but there are other mitigation strategies available besides masking everyone when the science now tells us that masks are not as effective as they once were believed to be. In the Chesapeake District, we have recently gone mask optional. It is going well. We see children smiling faces again, and guess what? A student even spoke at our school board meeting last night saying no one was judging anyone for wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. COVID is now at the point where it will always be with us. It is up to individuals to make decisions to protect themselves as they would for any other virus. Stop using these children in this way. Let them be kids, let them breathe freely as all of you do, outside of this building or even inside of the building when you take off your mask to speak. Let's see those smiling faces again. Thank you.
Jean Clune. Jean Clune. All right. This is a tough one. William Huberdine. Huberdeau.
Hello, thank you. It was really important to me that I stayed because I think last time I spoke, I said that, wait, I want to make it this right because I've been getting it backwards. I have your back. I spent my life thinking long and hard about how to best protect our freedom, and I considered law school, I considered the arts. If I thought war would do it, I would have enlisted. But I thought the best way to protect our freedom was to be a teacher. And I am one, and I have never once thought to change my mind. If wearing a mask was about taking freedom, they would have already taken it. They don't need a pandemic to take our freedom. All they need to do is lie. Whether that's about weapons of mass destruction or a fake election, all you have to do is lie. Some people will believe it, some people won't, and we're divided, and the powerful become more powerful. The masks are about safety. For our students and their families, for our staff and our families, because wearing a mask is not about an individual choice to protect yourself, it's an individual choice that protects other people. And that's exactly why this isn't about freedom. It's an offering to our brothers and sisters in humanity. I know the state Senate has spoken, and I'm ready to give up if the board decides to, but if you do, stick with the masks for as long as you can. Wait out legal challenges, or better yet, make them. I have your back. I came here last time to say that, and I'm still here. And I think you can count on everyone in the room to have your back if we're able to stay in school. And I think the masks are helping. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Hunter Ames.
Good afternoon, board. Or should I say good evening? I've spoken to a few of you on the phone, Mr. Brown, Dr. Best, Ms. Buffalo, again, congratulations on your recognition tonight. My issue is with the transportation department. And it is an issue of staffing. It is an issue that we are all fighting. I work in healthcare. I've worked in the restaurant industry. I've done a lot. I do not expect the school board to pull 120 plus bus drivers out of your hat. If you have a magical hat that you can do that, let me know. Maybe the winning lottery numbers are in there. My issue is communication. It's a transportation issue, but it's also a school issue. You know, every day almost buses are late. A notification to the parents that buses are going to be late, I don't think that is something that's impossible 15, 20 years ago when I was in school, I remember answering, my parents' wall phone, back when they had those. And it'd be, hey, there's a PTA meeting, a recorded message, PTA meeting Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. If we could do that then, 15, 20 years ago, with less technology, we can't send out an automatic text message or phone call or email letting parents know that buses are going to be late. It happened yesterday. It happened today. My daughter's scheduled to be at her bus stop at 4:16. That's per the bus app, by the way. Which it's an app. I'm not that big into technology, but I have it. 4:45, I get a notification that her bus has been substituted with another bus. Okay, she got out of school at 3:50. If I call the school right now at 4:45, I can't get anybody to answer. My kid got out of school, for all intents and purposes, an hour ago. What's 5 minutes? Where's my kid at? So I will say that at some point, the buck stops with the superintendent and it stops with the school board. We have to hold somebody accountable for notification. Today, I got a notification, 4:38, my daughter's bus had been substituted with another bus. She was walking through my front door at 4:42. It hadn't even showed that she had been picked up yet. It still shows that. I just looked at it. It shows that this bus has arrived at her school, but it has yet to arrive at her bus stop. The app is great 70% of the time. 7 out of 10 times, it's fantastic. It gives us the information that we need. But I do not think that communication is a hard part. The other day, I went to the school to pick her up because the buses were late. When I called the school, they go, oh, well, what route is he? I don't know. I just know the bus number. The schools assign the kids an actual route. And then when I walk in and I ask the secretary, do y'all not send out a notification to parents when the buses are going to be late? We don't know they're late. So hold on. You're here at the office answering the phone, but you don't know that buses are late.
And I apologize, Mr. Hayes, we have exceeded your time. So we do appreciate your story, and the superintendent is going to be following up with you.
Okay.
At this time, because we do have a few minutes remaining in this item 6 period, I'm going to ask if Ms. Fashion, if you would like to finish up your comments from earlier, if you would like that opportunity, you can do so now.
I thank you for allowing me to finish up my comments. See what I did with my. I'm concerned about our schools. I substitute teach in the schools, and I've been to various elementary schools, and there's just certain supplies that are not in the schools. For instance, a pencil sharpener. Many of the classrooms don't have not a pencil sharpener. There's not enough desks in some of the classrooms for students. There's no dictionaries for the students to use. One of the schools I went to didn't even have a librarian in the library to assist the students in selecting materials for them to read. Some of the classrooms said they didn't have enough chairs for the students in the class. One of the schools didn't have, everybody has an iPad on the K4 through kindergarten. So a lot of the parents don't charge these electronic devices for the kids. So when they bring them to school, this particular school didn't have enough plugins to plug all the laptops up. Not laptops, iPads up at the same time. And like I said before, I just want to know what kind of boards do you guys, what plans do you have to bridge the educational gaps that I've noticed in these schools? The students are really having a difficult time with this new math. It's like you're borrowing. I don't know what it is, but I can't figure that type of math out. And it's very important that you educate our students for success. And I know you're doing a good job. These teachers are working very, very hard. I admire what they're doing in all these schools. They spend extra time doing extra duties. And also you have your substitutes that's in these schools. They're also doing extra duties and assisting the teachers to help educate the children. And also I'd like to say something about the mask. The COVID-19 disease has killed over 992,000 people. The mask hasn't killed anybody. So I say to the board, let the mask stay in effect because it helps save lives. I have grandchildren in the school system and they want to live and I want to live. And the disease is not just here in Newport News, the disease is worldwide and the disease kills. Thank you for allowing me to finish my speech.
Thank you, Ms. Basham. All right. Yes.
Sir, I just have a comment. I wanted to comment on your briefing about the troops to teachers. I didn't see any information about contacting the local bases. I don't have all the numbers on the top of my head, but one number that your person can contact is 757-764-1110. That's the base operator number at Langley Air Force Base. They have a prompt. I think one prompt is public affairs. Probably could talk to that person. Talk to the person that does transition assistance for retirees. Every base in this area has a transition assistance program. That person probably can give you the numbers for everybody. And the other thing is, you guys are going up to Virginia Tech. Why aren't you stopping at VMI? Why aren't you stopping at JMU? Mary Baldwin, Liberty University for teachers. I highly recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so now, at this time, we are, I'm just going to say to Mr. Hunter, it is good to see you on this side of the grave. We've all been praying for you, and we are very glad to see you here tonight, and glad that you are making a strong recovery. It does all of our hearts very good. And with that, we are going to stand adjourned.